In today's video, we're going to be showing you how to install this beautiful ACIQ 2-zone mini split system. This system was a breeze to install. I feel like anyone with some DIY experience could totally tackle this project themselves. This homeowner wanted something to supplement their central HVAC system. The upper floor was just getting a lot warmer than the other areas of the home, and so this did the trick, but it also does not put a huge dent in their energy bill, which is an awesome thing, and there's no ductwork, of course. So this is definitely something you could do if you want to supplement your HVAC system, or if you want to put it in a basement or something to have separate controls. This is an awesome fit. So we're going to show you how to do this from start to finish, how to get power to the condenser, how to run the power and the line sets and the drain to the heads of the system. Everything turned out beautifully on this system, so make sure and stick around for the whole video for all the tips and tricks. Okay, so this is the space we're going to be putting these head units in. So the one unit will go right here. That's going to kind of supplement this area. And then right here, we're gonna have another unit that will kind of supplement the kitchen area here. So that's gonna just blow straight this way. And then the cool part about this is they're going right into this garage. And so our line sets will come out here and here. And we're gonna go basically out of the wall, straight up into the attic and over into the attic to our condenser. And then this one will come straight up and over that way. And our condensate drain, what we're gonna do for that, since we don't have a drainage point in here, is what we're gonna do is we're gonna run our drain, our flexible hose down here to our condensate pump. And then the tube that pumps it out will come up into one of these penetrations and go out to the other side of the home. All right, guys, so we've got our two head units here, an 18K and a 12K. We're gonna show you exactly what will come in these boxes from ACIQ, packaged really nicely here. So we've got our same remote. This is the same as our one that's in our house. So super easy to use here. Really nice looking unit. And then we have our filters up here on the top. So that's what we're gonna replace from time to time instead of an actual air filter like on a regular system. And then on the bottom, we have, of course, our line set here and our drain. And this can pivot out. And of course, we have our bracket. So we'll show you how to put this bracket up, get it centered. One thing that's really nice about these units is it has a level built into the bracket. So you don't have to have a separate level, and you can level out that bracket. So we'll get both of these unboxed. We're gonna show you where these units are gonna go. And the beauty of this is conditioned by a central AC system, but it's just not keeping up in the middle of summer. So this is going to supplement the existing HVAC system. And this is a 25 SEER, so it's very efficient, and it's not gonna hardly put a dent on their energy bill. All right, so this is our 18K head unit. So what we're gonna do to start with is lift up this portion, and we need to access back here so that we can remove this little test plug that comes on these units just dangling. So we're gonna remove that, and we're gonna show you how easy this is to do. So we're gonna take these two screws out right here first. Now, since we have these two out, we'll pull this straight up and it'll pop off just like that. Set that aside. Then we're gonna pull these two tabs up, and this will slide up. And then if we have this on the wall, we have a little kickstand there so we can not have that in our way while we're working. So now we have access to these two wires here on 1 and 2. We'll simply take these off, and then we can just slide those out. And then the one last thing we gotta do is pop this little guy off right here so that we can put our wire, our 14 gauge wire through here. Well, that works. All right, so the other cool part about this ACIQ unit is it has a little kickstand. So in previous videos when we didn't have this, we had to like shove a roll of duct tape or something in there to hold it up against off the wall. But this is a nice feature. So since we're gonna come straight into the garage, we're just gonna fold these over. And the nice part about this is these lines have these little spring things to keep them from kinking. The 1/4 inch one is really hard to kink, so we're just gonna kind of work this to where it's pointed straight out, just like that. And then we'll zip tie our drain hose to it, and we'll just feed this all out as one assembly. That's it right there. All right, so this is where our new ACIQ 36K condenser is going to go. They purposely wanted the ability to have more cassettes or more head units upstairs. So this is actually a 5-zone ACIQ that will work with 2 zones until they're ready for the other 3, or however many they want to add. They can add up to 3 more. So we forgot to get a pad. We're going to run and get one, but basically this is roughly where it's going to sit, and our lines are going to come up straight into this soffit and over to that area. Now the electrical, I don't think we need a disconnect. We're pretty close to 6 feet from right here, so if we need to turn the power off to this unit, we'll simply turn it off right here. And this is where we're going to be taking power from. We have 3 additional slots here, so we're going to remove this guy and see what we got underneath here. So this is our cover that we just removed, so we're going to pop 2 of these off, and that's going to give us our slot there for our new breaker. All right, and then up in here, this is all live, but we can see that we have 2 separate legs of this 220 power. So we're going to put our breaker right here, and that's going to hit 2 legs of 110, giving us 220 power. So this is a square D home line type breaker. So we're going to run and grab that. We're going to run this wire all the way over, probably along this corner and then back. So we'll need to get stuff for that. All right, guys, so here's where we're at. We have both of these stubbed out, and we just have this one temporarily bent. So to make this look as clean as possible, we're just going to go straight up. And what we've got is a line set cover that's going to go here. We've got some straight sections, and then this piece is going to go up against the ceiling, so it'll give it a nice finished look. So I've just traced this outline, and that's where we're going to cut our hole. Now we might not have, I might actually pull it out a little bit because we have this whole trim ring. So we can come out another maybe 1/2 inch, because I'm probably going to hit a stud right here. But as long as we have enough room for these 2 lines, we'll be golden. So I'm just going to go about right here. All right, so we got our hole cut there, and then we're going to feed the line set in through the ceiling, through the attic, make our connections, then we'll put this up and make it all finished and nice looking. All right, so right now we are unrolling all of our line set. We're gonna just get a whole straight run, and that's gonna make it a lot easier. So I'm just holding this side, and this is only 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch, so it's really not gonna be difficult at all. All right, guys, so we got our first 2 lines stubbed in through the ceiling. So we're gonna go ahead and make these connections, and that's the exact same connection that we're gonna do for our other side as well. We're just gonna be using Nylog blue, and we're just gonna snug them up. They don't require, you don't have to crank down on them, and they're good to go. So once we get these tightened, we'll wrap it all with insulation, get it nice and straight, and put our cover on. All right, so we're gonna take these off, and you should get nitrogen out of here as they are pre-charged. If you don't get any nitrogen, you might have an issue. So just bleed all this off. And then for our Nylog, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some on this space back here and the front of this space as well, right here. And then we'll get our Nylog all on the face there as well as right here. And if you get this inside, it's not a big deal. This is designed to be compatible with any refrigerant. So we're just gonna hold it exactly right there and get our nuts started. Okay, so line number 1 is snugged up with our nylog. We'll do the same on this, and then we'll rewrap this with our insulation, and we'll get it nice and hugged up against the wall here. All right, this is what we've got. So everything is insulated. We just have electrical tape holding that on. So we're gonna slide this up and get it as close as possible here. Basically, we just have to go that far in. And again, these are very flexible, so we're just gonna feed it up while we're making this bend. All right, so we got our electrical fed through this hole, and basically we just have these 3 wires, and they don't really matter. You just have to make sure they match on the other end. So we have red, black, and white, and then we put a little connector on here for our ground. So everything is buttoned up in here. We're just gonna put this little kickstand back down, close this permanently. We'll then put this piece on, these 2 screws that we removed, and then we can close this, and this will be completely done in here. Okay, so we're just gonna put it up like so, and then we'll kind of clip into place and then push in. And we'll take our 2 screws and put those in. And then we'll drop our lid. And that is it. That is the finished product. And once we turn this on, this will suck up all the way. Beautiful. All right, guys, here is the end of phase 1. The inside units are completely finished. The electrical, the line set, the drain, everything in the garage is completely done. So we have unit 1 and unit number 2. They look beautiful. And then when we come back, we're gonna button up the condenser and show that portion. All right, guys, so out here at the condenser, we needed to extend our line set. So we went and got some more line set. We were just about 8 feet short or so. So we're gonna be brazing these 2 in place, and we're gonna be putting a nitrogen flow on the lines. And the way we're gonna do that is with this tool right here by Trade Fox. So it has a bunch of O-rings inside for all different size pipes. And basically you just slide it on until it slides over the O-ring for that particular one. So it's nice and snug now. We'll just put our nitrogen right there, and then we'll braze our joint. All right, guys and gals, so we are getting started on our electrical. And so we got all of our refrigerant pipes extended. They're just kind of spooled up here and labeled. But I wanted to start on the electrical. And one thing that's helpful is before you take this cover off, I go ahead and knock out however many holes we need, because this piece is pretty flimsy if you take this other piece off that's supporting it. So we just need 3 slots. So I'll wiggle that one out, and then we'll take this cover piece off and make our connections. All right, so we have the cover off here, and we're gonna start attaching our lines. So we're gonna reflare these and make them nice and pretty here. And you'll notice this bottom one is larger than the rest. That is a 1/2 inch. I can actually pull this flare nut off and show you. This is the same diameter of our 1/2 inch or our 18K. So our 18K is gonna be this very bottom one, which is labeled A right here. So we have a 1/2 inch and a 1/4. And then the second head unit, which is the 12K, is gonna be B, which is 3/8 and 1/4 inch. And then we'll just make sure that our wire corresponds to that. So for unit number A is right here. That's gonna be our 18K, 1, 2, and 3. Remember, we had red, black, and white, and then our ground will go there. And then of course our L1, L2, our high voltage is super easy. We'll just hook those up there and we'll be good to go. Okay, so we got this one flared. We're gonna be putting Nylog Blue on this front face here. You can be pretty liberal with the amount that you put on. And then we're actually gonna show you how to do this flare with our NAVAC flare tool. Super easy, makes this job a breeze. Whether you're doing this for a profession, or if you're a DIYer and you wanna purchase a nice tool that makes this easy if you think you're gonna do one down the road, this is an awesome tool to have. So we'll get our next one fitted, which is the 1/2 inch, and we'll show you how to flare that one and how easy this is. Okay, so we have this cut and reamed. We've just used this reaming tool here to get any debris out, and we want to make sure that this is pointed down anytime we're doing that, so all that stuff comes out. Next, we're going to take this 1/2 inch tool from our NAVAC toolkit. We're going to butt it up to the end of that pipe right there. And then we're simply going to take this flare tool and we're going to slide this over, clamp it in, make sure our lines are lined up. Forgot to put the flare nut on. And look how beautiful the flare is. Only thing is we forgot to put our flare nut on. It seems like every time I do one of these, I forget. But here's a cool trick that a lot of people don't know. So on your cutter tool, there's actually a groove right here on the rollers. And a lot of people don't realize that that has a purpose. So that actually slides over your flare, so you can cut it as close to that flare as possible. Look how close that is. And it just rides along the flare. And watch when I'm done with this, how little of this pipe we actually had to take off. Look at that. We did not have to sacrifice any of that pipe, and that's the purpose of that little ridge right there. So now I'll show you the flare process, or the deburring process rather. So we're just gonna take these burrs out so that we get a nice clean flare. I'm just gonna tap, make sure all that stuff comes out. Okay, so we're good to go there. We're gonna take our flare nut this time, slide that on, and we're just gonna do the same thing here. And we'll slip this guy on. Make sure the lines are in place. One press, and we're flaring. Okay, pop this off, and look at that. Beautiful factory flare. And it just takes a less than 20 seconds to make that beautiful flare. Amazing. So we're gonna put our nylog on here, and we'll show you how easy this is to get started here. If I can do it with one hand. Look at that. Bam. All right, so we're just gonna duplicate that process on these two B ones that we have loosened here, and that's gonna be for our 12K. All right, guys, we have all of our lines connected and tightened with our nylog glue, so we are ready for our pressure test. So what we need to do here is, this whole thing right here is not pressurized with nitrogen, or excuse me, it might have some nitrogen, but it's not pressurized with refrigerant. The only place there's refrigerant is behind these two service valves right here, the main ones. And so what we need to do is, any of these valves that we have connected, we need to open up these Allen keys for each one. So you notice how that's locked in all the way down. So we're gonna take all of these off. I already loosened them. We're gonna take our HVAC service tool, and we're just gonna open these up. Now you might hear a little spurt. That's not refrigerant. That might have a little bit of nitrogen in there. But that's basically going to allow us to pull from this point all the way through the lines, all the way to the evaporator coil and back. That's gonna allow us to vacuum all of the heads, all the way to this point. And then once we have our vacuum pulled, then we can go ahead and let the refrigerant in. but we have to loosen these in order to do our pressure test as well. That's going to verify that our evaporator coil joints that we made are tight as well, and that we have 0 leaks. So let's go ahead and open these 4. And then if we ever wanted to put these other 3 heads in, we would open these valves accordingly. All right, so we have all 4 of these opened up all the way. We can put our caps back on, give those a snug, and then we're gonna do our pressure test right here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we have our Apion 5/16. This is a core depressor tool. It's not a core removal tool. Because of size restraints here, I'm just using this to do our pressure test. We might have to take this off to do our actual vacuum, but we'll see. So far we have 50 PSI in it. I like to just run it to 50, just let it sit for a few minutes to make sure there's no large leaks. And if it hasn't budged off of 50, we'll just go up to about 400 and then let it sit right there. All right, so there's where we're at. So as long as we do not budge off of that after about 30 minutes or so, we are golden to go ahead and let all this pressure out and pull our vacuum. All right, so we're working on getting our line hide put up here. This is just where we patched our insulation and extended the line set. And basically this particular line hide, I'll see if I can find it and put it linked in the video description, but it comes with these little clips. And basically they just slide on this track right here. And then all you do is run a zip tie through that little notch, and you can suck these in and make it a lot easier to put this finished cover over. All right, guys, we are still dead on the money. It's been like 30, 45 minutes. We're working on our electrical. We're gonna get that hooked up. We've got both of these connected and ready to go. So what we're gonna do now is let all the pressure off, and then we'll hook our micron gauge. These ones are a little bit tricky because there's only one port. So we're gonna hook our gauge up to this, and we'll show you what it looks like once we have our micron gauge and our vacuum set up, and we'll go from there. So that's how that tool works. Pretty neat. All right, so here's how we have this set up. So we just have our core tool there. We have another 5/16 core tool with obviously nothing in there. And then we have our micron gauge right here. We're down to about 600 microns. And once we get to 500, we're going to isolate right here. And then once we have passed our decay test, we'll simply open these 2 king valves, and that's gonna let all the refrigerant into the lines and into the rest of the system. And this will be ready to be fired up. All right, so while our vacuum pump is pulling, we're down really low there. So as far as the refrigerant charge, this comes pre-charged for 125 feet. That's with all 5 of these heads connected, being as we only have 2 heads and they're 50 feet each, plus we had to add about 8 feet on each line. So we're at like 116 feet. So we're golden. If and when we decide to add more heads to this, then we will add some charge, but we should be spot on for these 2 heads to run it with the amount of refrigerants that's in it. So this is where we're at. We have our lines routed back there. We have our line hide here. That turned out really nice. Looks really clean. And once we have all of our junk cleaned up, we'll show you what this looks like. And we're just about ready to fire this bad boy up. And then our liquid tight we have secured here going up to our new 30 amp breaker. So very basic here. We have our 2 hots. This is 8 gauge wire that we did in this conduit. And then our ground attaches there, and it's ready to go. All right, we're on the home stretch here. Our vacuum is almost done. We're down to like 74, but when we turn this off, it goes up to about 1500 and then completely stops, doesn't move at all. I don't really trust the way this is set up, but I know that we're getting a nice vacuum on this system. All right, so what we did was we loosened this all the way. That basically took any pressure off of the core that's in here. And then we just opened up the suction side all the way. Now we're gonna open up the liquid line right here. You can hear that refrigerant flowing in. And then once these are fully opened, we'll put our caps back on, take everything off, and we will be ready to fire this system up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have our finished mini split system up and running. We just started this up. It's blowing nice and cool, and everything is working beautifully. We are just getting our remotes mounted. These are really easy to use, and they work really nicely. And then over here on this unit, you can see we're blowing out 48-degree air, and we're still dropping. I just put my thermometer on this one. It's about 75 degrees, 74 degrees in the home. So a really nice temperature split there. So yeah, this is gonna be an awesome addition to the central system, but this is the upper level and it just gets really warm in this area. And he's just hoping to condition the space. And right off, after about 2 hours of running, he saw a really good difference in the temperature here. And it's even noticeable. Before, when you went up these stairs, there was like a 10-degree difference, and now it's more equal. And this is such an awesome thing because you don't have to redo all of your HVAC system. You can do an addition like this to supplement your existing system, and these will hardly put a dent in your efficiency bill, or your energy bill rather. And then out here in the garage, here's the finished product. So we have our line hide as well as our condensate drains, and they run down here to our condensate pump. And then this just pumps it over here to the exterior of the building, and simple as that. But I thought it turned out really nice and everything looks good. Here's our finished ACIQ condenser. And just for sound reference, this is just their regular whole home system. You can hear the decibels here. So it's showing about 60 decibels on my watch there. And we can see about 56, 57 decibels here. All you can hear basically with this system is just the fan running. You can't even hear the compressor. The compressor that I hear over here is actually louder than this one. So really nice, designed by ACIQ. So yeah, everything is done. Our line hide turned out beautifully. It kind of matches the gutter right there. And yeah, everything looks really nice. So we have our electrical there, conduit, and we have our pad nice and level. The bricks here actually aren't quite level, so that kind of threw me off, but the unit itself is perfectly level. So if you guys are interested in ACIQ equipment, make sure and check them out. You can find this product on websites such as HVAC Direct. You can find them on Amazon as well. Simply go to my Amazon store and you can find those there. Well guys, I thought this install turned out beautifully. It was a relatively easy job, and I feel like anyone with some DIY experience can totally do this job themselves. As always, if you're interested in any of the tools that we used in this video, you can find them down in the video description. Simply go down right under the video, click more, and you can find my Amazon store right there, or I'll also leave a QR code up here in the corner. Now, thankfully on this system, we didn't have to add any refrigerant. Until we add the additional heads, we don't have to add any refrigerant. But if you are in need of any type of refrigerant, whether it's 410, R454B, R22, you can find all of them at abilityrefrigerants.com. They can ship it right to your door super fast because they know that you need it to top off your system and get it cooling again. So make sure and check them out at abilityrefrigerants.com. Now, if you want to see some other ACIQ install videos, you can check out this playlist right here. And until next time, you guys be safe. Later.